Hey, it's Lauren, and welcome to the episode. So my guest today is Leslie Regalado, and she is the founder of We Lead Society and host of the Perfectly Imperfect Podcast. Now, when you're recording these episodes, for me, I sometimes think about things that the guest is saying, and I'm like, oh, that's going to be a great quote for promotion and blah, blah, blah. Pretty much every single thing that Leslie said, I really want to put into like a quotable or a tweetable, as many people say. This episode is jam-packed full of so much stuff. She talks about, challenges. She talks about mindset. She talks about, working on her own vision, telling her story, doing things even if they're not done perfectly the first time, backing herself, investing in herself. And she just inspired me through the whole episode. I got goosebumps like 1,000 times during the episode. I'm even getting them now, telling you this now. So really what I want you to do is just buckle up, get a coffee, get a tea, whatever, settle in. It's going to be such a ride. But let me tell you, it is jam-packed full of value. You may not be the same person at the end. Here we go. This episode's been brought to you by the Rah Rah Spirit Team. Growing your business is just the beginning. Too many business owners try to grow their business on their own. They spend countless hours testing out and investing in hundreds of strategies, all with the aim of building their business. Without support, someone helping to guide you and cheering you on, motivation starts to go down. Your passion starts to decrease. You start running out of money and losing faith in your business and yourself. The Rah Rah Spirit Team is a supportive community filled with expert programming, up-to-date training, guest experts, mentorship, and like-minded business owners. This isn't another community and another strategy. This is a serious and supportive community of business owners focused on supporting each other and building their business. You are welcome here. All right, welcome to the podcast. I'm Lauren, and I'm joined today by Leslie Regalado. She is the founder of We Lead Society, host of the Perfectly Imperfect Podcast, co-author of today's Inspired Latina Volume 8, and lover of pad thai, flan, chick flicks, and a daily dose of inspiration. Leslie's mission is to inspire women to start living their life by design and not by default. She's the queen of taking imperfect action and loves teaching female entrepreneurs and those in the making to get out of their own way to make sure they turn their brilliant ideas into reality. Leslie has been on this wild entrepreneurial journey for over 15 years, but it hasn't always been fun, purposeful, or fulfilling in the slightest. She has created the We Lead Society a few months ago after dreaming about it for most of last year and is now making an impact while designing the life she desires. She's joining me today to talk about living by design and not by default. Hello, Chica. Welcome.
Hello. On the way from Chicago. How are you?
Love it. Chicago in the house. It's so good.
Yes.
I am so looking forward to talking to you today, Leslie, because I know we've talked before. I was privileged to be able to be on your podcast as well. And, it's so interesting when you talk to different entrepreneurs, different female entrepreneurs about, their journey, their hurdles, the things that they've learned along the way to really just like create their own program or to create, I guess their life by design. So thank you so much for being with me today.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
So tell me how your entrepreneurial journey sort of kicked off, how it began, because not everyone is supposed to be an entrepreneur, but those of us who are, we just know innately that we hate being told what to do and it has to,
right.
We have to do our own thing. So how did yours start?
You know what the funny thing is that I had no problem, being an employee. Actually, my journey with entrepreneurship started in a really kind of weird way. I joined a network marketing company when I was 22. So almost 20 years ago. And it was one of those things that I was invited to like an event. I heard a little bit of their marketing and I loved the products that were being sold within the company. We had my mom, my sisters, myself, we had been using it for years. So it was almost when I heard about the way it worked as a business, it was like, why didn't anyone tell us? You know, we could have saved money. Maybe I'll make some money, but at least we could save a ton of money. And, you know, so for me, it was more of like, shoot, why not? You know, let me try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you know, at least I get a discount. And that turned into 16, almost maybe 17 years of working that business. And then recently was when I discovered, or not even discovered, where I started feeling like there's something more out there. You know, you start kind of getting that weird, awkward, kind of crazy feeling like I'm meant for more. This is no longer it, although it felt like it was it for a long time. But in my gut, something was telling me there's something more out there for you. And it was like that for probably about 2 years. It all started when my mom passed away. She passed away, it's been 3 years already. And that happened. And then shortly after, or actually 2 years later, I turned 40. So there was like, you know how they say, like when you turn a certain age or like there's a birth or a death, like something kind of shakes up a little in your life. And that's kind of, I think, what happened to me. I started questioning, like, okay, what's my purpose? What am I meant here to do? Like, I know it's not this. Now I need to figure out what it is. And that's kind of how that, like the second part of my entrepreneur journey began, which is where We Lead Society comes in. And again, it's only going to be a year since that whole idea kind of came up.
I love that. I want to know a little bit more about We Lead Society, but we'll talk about that a bit later because I think that what you touched on is so important. I think that, you know, as we get older, I mean, obviously we get more fabulous. That's clear. I always say like a fine wine.
Wiser and more fabulous.
Exactly. But, you know, I think that we're aware of time and we're aware that, you know, while time's a construct, it's still you know, going on. And, you know, if we're not taking ownership of where our life is going, we're never going to get to where we want to go. Right. So, you know, how did you kind of decide to have those real conversations with yourself? Was it that you felt this lack of purpose in what you were doing? I mean, you talked about you were looking for something bigger, but I guess I'm trying to discern, how is it that you found, you know, that what you weren't doing wasn't suiting you anymore, whereas other people, they just continue to go through the motion?
Well, I think I've been that way for a long time where I'm able to pivot fairly quickly. Now, I didn't pivot as quickly as probably I should have with the network marketing company because it was like I've dedicated, 10 years, 15 years, however long it was at that point.
Yeah.
Like, let me kind of wait it out. Like, I feel like I still belong here. And then one day it was just like no longer there. Like, I no longer felt attached. And I'm one of those people that I listen to my gut. I've always done it. I'm one of those people that, yes, although I plan, so many of my decisions are literally like spur of the moment because I need to make sure that I feel in my gut if that's the right or the wrong choice. And it always guides me. And it started out originally when I started kind of feeling that feeling of there's something more out there. Like, I'm made for more. What the heck is it? Let me try to figure it out. Shortly after that, I was listening to a podcast, I don't remember whose, and then I got this like urge I need to start my own. And I'm not going to lie, I probably stuck on that urge for, probably over 6 months, if not longer, because the whole idea of I need a recording, you feel like you need a recording studio with a new mic and like the whole, 9 yards. I knew nothing about any of this. So one day I literally just Googled like how to start a podcast. And although I had already done it, maybe I don't think I had done enough research, and it literally just this app came up and it said just your cell phone and this app, and that was it. And that's literally how I started. And that started last September. And through that is where I met Jacqueline Camacho Ruiz, she's written a lot of books. She's really fabulous Latina entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. And she was the one that asked me after I interviewed her if I would co-author or just share my story within their series of Today's Inspired Latina. And writing that bit of my story inside of that book, or like just, write it up and then sending it over to the editor, that did something. I really can't like put my finger on exactly what it did, but I feel like it uncovered like a lot of what I was feeling. It almost like made me put it on paper in a way. And the title of like my story is, let me see if I think it's The Courage to Say Yes. And basically what I wrote about was every single time I said yes, and how that always guided me into this amazing place and this self-discovery and this growth, process. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was just the gut feeling of it, whatever I was doing, it just wasn't it anymore. And me being willing to kind of pull on that courage that I had to make sure that I was willing to not stay there just because I had been there for so long. Because I think, like you said, a lot of people, you kind of just go about your day. You ignore a lot of these gut feelings, a lot of this intuition. And it's like, well, I've done it forever. It's what I know. It's what I'm going to continue doing because it's what I'm supposed to do. And for me, that just wasn't okay.
I love that so much. It sounds to me as though, putting your story on paper, you kind of realized that you were worthy and giving yourself permission to, to really own that, who you are, I guess, your story. I think that, some of the people, I'm sure you have this as well with the women that you work with, that, we have imposter syndrome, or we have these beliefs where we feel we're not worthy. And, why is my voice important? And, really, like, we all have our own story to share. So, did you have to work through fear to kind of get into your journey? And how do you do that? You say you're a yes person, but the future is sometimes scary. So how do you kind of pursue, through that?
So honestly, my journey began all the way back to when I started the network marketing company. I was extremely shy. I was such an introvert. I mean, I would be the ones that would, even though I would sit in the front of class, I wanted to pay attention. I was a good student. I never rose my hand. I never asked the questions because I was always so shy. And just even going anywhere, I remember I would tell my husband, because we would go out, when we were first dating, and he would say, he's very outgoing. So he would say hi to the cashier and how are you? And, did you just start working? Like all these questions. And I would look at him like, dude, stop, you're embarrassing. And he's that way. He showed that he cares. So it was just these little things. So I've always been more of an introvert. And then through my network marketing journey is where I discovered that there was more inside of me. Like there were so many more talents and skills and strengths that I never knew were there until I put myself in a position to actually discover them. Mm-hmm. And when I say that I'm someone that takes imperfect actions, I call myself self-proclaimed queen of taking imperfect action, is because what I have figured out is that I will never see everything as clear as I want to see it. I will never see every single step that I have to take ahead of time. But what I do know is the very next step that I can take. Not that I have to or that I should, but that I feel like I can take. And that has been like my little secret for success, if you want to call it that, because I tell it to everybody. But it's like just, figure out, connect with that bigger vision of what you see for yourself in the next 5 to 10 years, and then break it all the way down to what do you have to do to make that vision a reality? And then once you figure out what are the things that have to happen between now and the next 5 or 10 years, then it's break it all the way down to what you can start doing right now. Yeah. That can get you an inch closer. And that's how I have figured out just, okay, if I do this, and it's amazing because everything that I'm discovering, even since we talked last time, now I've discovered that I'm actually an imperfect action coach. I didn't even know that existed until I read somewhere about that. And I'm like, oh crap. Yeah, I totally love to teach women how to take imperfect action and get out of their own way. Yes, did I go through the self-sabotage, the doubts, the fears, and insecurities? Absolutely. But I heard one time, just do it scared. And it's feel the fear and do it anyway.
Ooh,
and I have figured that I once also heard that the only thing that cures fear is action. And once you get into action and you start doing the thing you're afraid of, it takes so much power away from that fear, because now you're really finding out, is it that scary? I'll give you an example. When I had kids, I was so afraid of childbirth, not getting pregnant, none of that. It's just the actual coming out of the child from my body was something that freaked me out. And I held off to do anything that could cause me to get pregnant forever. Cause I was like, if I do that, this could be a consequence. And I am deathly afraid of it. So long story short, I got married, got pregnant a little while after I had my first kid. And after having my first son, 10 months later, okay, I faced the fear because I took action and I had the child. 10 months later, I was giving birth to my second.
Wow.
So yeah, that was totally, surprise, but that's how, that's kind of how things work. I feel like the minute you take action, it's like you really find out what's going to happen as opposed to just thinking about it. I feel like so much of the fear and the insecurities and the doubts and everything else that holds us back, it doesn't live in a space of truth. It really just lives in our mind and what we think can and will happen. But if we never take action, we really will never find out. And that's kind of where my key has been in figuring out, okay, I'm going to do this. If it sucks, I'm okay with that. If I fail, I am okay with that because I'm sure I'll learn something along the way.
Yeah.
And I think so many people are so afraid of failing. Like, I don't know what it is. Like I tell my kids all the time, like, okay, what did you fail at today? Like, what did you suck at today? Because you can't get good at anything until you suck at it first, or you're not that great at it first. Yeah. So but yeah, I have felt the imposter syndrome, like it is not a joke. I'm like, and then I just remind myself, you know what, I've done like hard things before. And if I don't try, I won't find out. And I see this big vision that I connect with every single morning because I do a visualization meditation every single morning for 15 minutes that helps me to connect with that future version of myself that I see happening. And I just remind myself, you know what? She told me this morning, she thanked me for being courageous. She thanked me for not giving up. So I'm not gonna. Like, I've seen what's possible and I'm not going to stop until I achieve that because I have now seen it and I'm so connected with it. I think so many people never take the time to do that, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And maybe they don't feel worthy or, do it scared. That was so good. I love that so much because I think that's exactly what you need to do. And like you're saying, once you end up doing the thing, it's pretty much never as bad as we thought it was originally going to be. I mean, yeah, that's what it's about. Do you think that as women, we have a hard time with kind of like, I mean, you just did it so well. You explained your strengths. And I think that sometimes as women, we're afraid to step into our power because we don't want to be seen in that way, or we don't want to seem like where we think we're better than, or that, our ego is like really driving us when really there's such a difference between being confident and being arrogant. And I think that, talking to powerful, inspired women like you, I love that, you're happy to talk about your strengths because I am too. And there's such a difference between, you just knowing that this is what you're good at versus you thinking that you're better than. And I think maybe that's part of it as well, is like, we're afraid to step into our power because of how we might be perceived as inauthentic, even though that's who we truly are, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I think so many people are so worried about what other people are going to say. Yeah. And I heard, I think it's Dr. Seuss that says, those who matter don't care, and those who care don't matter. And I heard that like a couple years ago, and I remember like reading that and just such a simple, cut phrase, but so awesome. Much truth, to it, where the people that care about me, like, they know how crazy I am. They know that I'm silly. They know that I'm very like raw with what I say, and they love me anyway. I mean, some of them kind of have to, like my sisters and, my husband, they signed up for it and that's it, it was in blood. But then the people, like, I have found that the more authentic, the more I play into my strengths, the more I find the people that I'm meant to be around. So I don't know if this happens to anyone else, but this happened to me for a very long time where I never felt like I fit in. And I don't know if that ever happened to you, but it was like this, like I would be around certain people and it was like, I would have like acquaintances, but I never had like rock solid friends that I could like call up. And I think, although some people are like, oh my gosh, you didn't have like a lot of friends, I think that was such a gift. And I'll explain to you why, because you were saying, how people worry about what others think. And, kind of we're talking about this. Because I didn't have a lot of people that I used to hang out with that I would connect with on a consistent basis, I literally chose who I had in my ear all day long. And that's where the podcast, the audiobooks, all of that came in, where I chose who I listened to. And the people I listened to were constantly empowering, encouraging, and inspiring me. And I think so many times people are so uncomfortable with the idea of pulling away from those that they've been around forever simply because that's what they know. Going back to the same thing of staying at a job because that's what you know, staying in a marriage because that's what you know, staying in whatever it is that you're doing because that's what you know, and being so afraid of the unknown. And for me, it was like, you have to, like, sometimes you outgrow people.
Yes.
And one of my favorite things to share with people is that, you know, you might have an idea that was gifted to you. Like, this is you're meant to be this, you're meant to do this. And this is like this huge idea, this huge goal, this huge vision. Well, it might be like an 8x10 vision or idea or goal. You share that with people that are around you that have a 5x7 mentality, and there's a problem because
yes.
Either you shrink down your vision and your goal and your dreams to fit their mentality, or they expand their mentality to fit your vision and your goals and your dreams and empower and encourage you. Usually that does not happen.
Yes.
The first one happens where you have to shrink down, and most people do shrink down to make other people feel comfortable. And I came to the realization that I can't do that, because someone once told me, Leslie, your dreams, your goals, that vision that you have for your life, that desire that's in your gut, it's connected with other people. We're like chains, you know, there's links, and you're connected to other people, and the people that you're connected with that are meant to connect with you along the way, you know, maybe you don't even know them yet, but you're meant to connect with them along the way. If you don't play out that vision, that goal, if you don't like go full force and you never kind of follow through with that, all those people are going to be left like hanging around, like, you know, in like limbo kind of. And I remember thinking, okay, so the people that I'm around, if they don't get it, they don't have to get it, number one, but if they don't get it, it's okay. As long as, like, because this vision, this goal was given to me.
Yeah.
It wasn't given to him or her. And I think
Yeah.
the minute I embraced that, and really, again, like, I have people that are, that love me and that I love, that really, like, whatever I do, they're like, yeah, you can do that. One of them is my husband. He like never has any doubt. If I say something, like, it's for him, it's like written in stone. And there's times where I'm like, dude, like, stop. Like, I was just playing, or, you know, like, give me some time. And he's kind of like, all right, when? All right, let's do it. You know, so, but I love that, you know, his belief is so strong, and it's almost like a childlike belief. You know, when you tell, like, when I tell my kids something, they don't doubt. They don't say, Mom, really? They're just like, all right, cool. You know, I'm their mom. So they believe I'm like, you know, the bomb, like I could do it all, because that's kind of what they've always seen. And to have that kind of belief around you, you know, it's empowering. And even when you doubt, you're able to kind of pull on their belief in you. And that's why I tell people, like, choose who you hang around with, because you will only go as far as the few people that believe in you. You will only go as far as they believe you can. For some kind of reason, they say that that's true. My husband believes that I'm like going to conquer the world. So it's like, dang, all right, I got some work to do. You know, but it's powerful to have that kind of support.
Hell yeah. And, you know, like, that's one thing that I like to drive home too, is that you can't share your dream with everybody. And that, I think that's a big deal, because like you're talking about, you know, if you decide to be vulnerable and you share your dream with somebody who's like a no person, or who wants to keep you, who is small in their own little scared world, and they knock you down, and then you just don't ever talk about it with anybody again, and your dream dies essentially. You need to be aware of that. And the company you keep is so key. And you've just, you know, you've articulated that so well. I think I was reading somewhere that we're the sum of the 5 people we hang out with the most.
Yes.
So it's like, when you're hanging out with people who are free thinkers, who are encouraging you, who recognize that there aren't limitations, what you're going to grow and blossom into this incredible person. And like you're saying, you know, if you're doing an inventory of where you're spending your time and those people aren't around you, you know, you need to do what you need to do to eliminate them. Or like you said, put the right people in your ears, because that's actually such a helpful thing, right? When you think about the audiobooks or the podcasts, you know, those are mentors in your ears that you don't even need to know personally.
Yep. I always say the 5 people that I'm around the most, I mean, I don't really include my kids, but like, I include my husband and all like the podcasts and the books that I read. Yeah. Like, I don't need to be around like physical people, although I love being around people, you know, like the right people, but I don't need it every single day to feel empowered and encouraged, because I get to choose. I literally just, I mean, with the phones nowadays, I'm like, you have everything in your hand. Yeah. Now, you know, I heard one time that if you don't know something, like if you're ignorant on a specific subject or on something you want to learn, it's a choice. Like we no longer get to say, I don't know, because you literally can just Google how to this or what this. It's like ignorance is a choice nowadays. So if you're choosing to stay in that little space, or if you're choosing to not figure stuff out, it's simply because you're choosing it. It's not because you can't do it. And I think that's the difference between having like a growth mindset and having one that's kind of set in its own way, where it's not looking for solutions, but it's always focused on problems.
Yeah, exactly. One thing I was talking, or I had a message from somebody today, was that, you know, I was giving her some tips on how to kind of get started. And she's like, just expressed that she was so frustrated that she's just learning basic stuff right now. And I thought, yeah, but if you're not doing basic things like getting up on time and eating properly, you know, well, if you don't start it now, when are you going to start it? So, you know, like sometimes it's just about getting it going now, eliminating the people that aren't supporting you now, putting the important things in your ears now, and then starting your mission. So, I mean, is that how you live your life by design and not by default, where you're taking that control, where you're going, all right, no matter where I'm at now, if I need to do X, Y, Z, I've just got to start that? Or how do you live your life by design?
I design my days. I am very anal when it comes to like the practices or like my daily routines, because one of the things as you were talking that I remembered, I was talking to someone about on a podcast last week. She asked me like, where did this all start? Like, where did you discover that you were like the queen of imperfect action? And how did that whole idea come about? And I said, honestly, for me, it started when I started waking up at 5 a.m. And it was my one key daily behavior that I don't pull away from, because where did I read? I read about the key day behavior somewhere, probably somewhere in a book, or I can't remember where. And then they said, like, what is that one thing that you do every single day that, you know, if you do that one thing, it kind of leads into the next, and then that one leads into the next, and so on and so forth. And for me, it's waking up early. If I don't wake up early, my morning routine is crushed. Literally, like, I don't do my visualization, I don't do my reading, I don't write down my intentions for the day. Like, there's so much that kind of goes out the window, and it's all, like you said, it's the small, almost insignificant things that you think don't make a difference that absolutely make the biggest difference. All of the changes in my life that are more recent happened because of that itty bitty small change of just waking up earlier. I go to bed earlier. Obviously, that's kind of where it starts. I go to bed by like 10 o'clock, and then I wake up at 5, the latest 6 on certain days if I go to bed a little later. But it's like, if I do that, and then I do my morning routine, and then that kind of leads me into having this phenomenal day, because my attitude is on point, my energy is on point, because I move my body for at least 20, 30 minutes. There's so many things that kind of start off with that one key daily behavior. And I think so many of us dismiss those little, almost insignificant things that we think are not important that are so freaking important. So like with whoever you were talking to, that's where it's at. You know, it's not in the big, huge things that we do. It's not in the, you know, I wrote a book, or I started a podcast, or whatever, I started a business. No, that all started because at one point I made a very conscious decision that I was going to stop being, you know, a late person. I was going to start waking up early, and I was going to have this different kind of start to my day. But, you know, it's so simple. It's so simple to do, but it's also so simple not to do. And I think that's where, you know, the balance is.
You said it clearly too, because I've always been a night person as well. And then, you know, about, 2 years ago in February, I started getting up earlier and earlier and earlier and earlier. And now I'm at 5, I get up at 5:20, and I'm like, who is this person? But
I know.
who is this person?
I agree.
But it just goes to show, if 2 night owls like us, 2 creatives, you know, we can do it, then anyone can do it, because we made it a priority. And I love when you're talking about your morning routine and how you've kind of tailored something that's setting you up for the best day, AKA the best week, month, year, life possible, that you've intended to choose your time doing the things that are going to set you on the right foot.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you know, it's funny because I remember I was talking to someone about, you know, waking up at 5, and they're like, are you nuts? Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing at 5 a.m.? And I said, oh my goodness. I'm like, there's so much to do. You know, if I,
Yeah.
like part of my visualization when I talk to, because it's a guided visualization meditation, I talk to the future version of me. So the future me in 5 years. So we literally have a conversation every morning. It is like the craziest thing, but it's so freaking powerful.
I love
So
it.
we talk, and then she tells me how she wakes up at 5. Now, you know, the kids are like doing their own thing because in 5 years, my oldest 2 will be in college already. My youngest will be in high school.
Wow.
So, you know, we have this conversation of like, dude, like the kids don't really like need you to do stuff for them anymore. You know, 2 of them are already in college, so they're not even here. So we're having this conversation, and then she tells me how she wakes up at 5 still, how she doesn't start working like her business until 9. So she has these 4 hours where she does like a whole hour of working out. She's fit, she's strong, she's energetic. So, but again, it goes back to, you know, kind of what we're talking about, that it's this very detailed, very organized way of starting, you know, the day. And I remember there was a point in time where I would tell myself, I remember people would say, oh, join the 5 a.m. club, because part of the network marketing company that I was a part of, they would always like preach that. Like, wake up, you know, if you wake up an hour earlier, that means that you add 7 hours to your week. And then that means that it's an extra day and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And I would look at them like they were crazy. I'm like, no, I'll stay up till 2, 3 in the morning, but I am not waking up at 5. Yeah. Because I told myself for so long that I worked so much better at nighttime. Yeah. Of course I didn't. My brain was tired. It was exhausted, but I swore I did. The minute there was just something clicked. Oh, you know what I think it was? I read a little bit of the 5 a.m. Club. It's the book by Robin Sharma, which is I eventually read the whole thing, but I remember reading just bits and pieces of happens when you wake up that early and what happens when you work out for at least 30 minutes that early. Like, it literally, scientifically, it explains all of the benefits for your body, for your mind, for your creativity, for your success, what that does. And I remember thinking, all right, let me try this. Like, you know, it's written, it's in black and white, it's very common sense, it's very logical of why it's so good for you. Let me try it out. And just one day I said, okay, I'm going to go to bed at 10 with the kids. I'll set everything up, you know, the night before, and I'm going to do it. And it was literally just a decision. They say, you know, you're a decision away from the life you want and the, you know, your dreams and your goals. And literally for me, it was that simple. It took me years to make a decision, but it was like that. All right, I'm ready. And I think the minute we're ready to make a decision and we're ready to let go of those old stories we've been telling ourselves for so long, is when we can actually start seeing the change.
Yeah. So much gold in everything that you're talking about. keep getting goosebumps like every time you're talking. It's so good because you're right. We are one decision and away, and we're our own, you know, we're getting in our own way. Like you're talking about, you know, I know that you work with women to stop getting in their own way. And really it sounds so simple to say, but you just need to choose that you want something different or better.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, that's one of the things that I love about what I do is working with people that are ready to make a change. Because when I talk to women, I don't just like work with anyone just because I get very frustrated, and it's just my own little issue. When I see so much potential in someone and they're just choosing to use every excuse and allow every fear and every insecurity to get in their way. Yeah. And not everyone is, like you said earlier, not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur. Not everyone is meant to do X, Y, and Z. It's a choice they have to make. Everyone can. I just don't think that everyone chooses to do so because it's hard work. You know, I was talking to my sister, my brother-in-law yesterday about, you know, being in business and how everyone sees someone's success and they're like, I can do that. You know, and they go and they start pursuing this, whatever thing they think is so easy. And then, you know, they might be like, they start off and it's kind of okay. And literally like within a few months, max a year, like they're gone. You know, they've given up on it because they have realized that building a strong foundation underneath any kind of a business, it's going to take a lot of work. And it's going to seem like a lot of unpaid work, which I think is the hardest part for people that are used to exchanging their time for their money, for money, because you think, okay, I go to, you know, I'll give you an example. I'm creating this course and it's taken me hours to try to put it together and figure it out. And then I'm kind of a solopreneur right now. So I am like the web designer. I am the whatever, I'm everything, the copywriter, the whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So it's, you know, it takes me a little longer simply because I don't have those skills. Like they're not a 10. There
Yeah.
may be a 1 or a 2, and they're kind of slowly, getting better.
Yeah.
So it's taken me a long time. And that's a lot of work that I'm technically not getting paid for right now. So if you don't have that mindset of I'm working now to be able to play later instead of I'm playing now and I'm going to have to work the rest of my life till God knows when. I think for me, it's always been like, I'm just willing to do whatever needs to get done in order for me to get things done. And you're right. Not everyone has that kind of a mindset, unfortunately.
You know what, though? The word that came into my mind when you were talking was that you're investing. You're investing in yourself. And that started the day that you decided to get up early and set your intentions and design the morning the way that you wanted. You decided that you were worth the investment. And yeah, you're not getting paid. I mean, you're not getting paid for probably half of what you do. I'm definitely not getting paid for half of what I do, but I'm investing in where I see myself going, just like you. And so that's what it's about. It's so funny where you have these people who are like overnight successes, but they've been working at it for 10 years because
Yes.
there are no overnight successes. So it's like, if anyone's trying to sell you on that, people, no,
like
just
run the opposite way immediately. Heck yeah.
Exactly.
No, you're right. You know what? My journey with this new business and everything I'm doing, it is going fairly quickly. Like people are like, whoa, like you just started the podcast last September and then you literally just started your business like earlier this year and you're already like launching this and doing that.
Yeah.
But like in my mind, I'm like, shoot, I've been working on my mindset for 15 plus years.
Yes.
Like the way I think has been like this evolution of crazy, amazing things. But it's happened over time. I didn't just like wake up one morning and I was like, I can do it all and I'm the perfect action queen and blah. No, it's been this progression of being willing to get out of my own way every single time that I get in my way, feeling the fear, figuring out, okay, how can I take action to figure out if this fear is real or not, which 99% of the time, there's no like foundation underneath that fear at all. Usually it's like, oh, dang, like, that's it. It's what? Like, why was I so afraid of doing X, Y, and Z if literally like that's all it was? And I just think it's so funny when we can connect with that bigger purpose, that bigger vision for our life. Everything else starts seeming so insignificant that it's almost, and I guess for me, my mom passed away and the events that are happening in the world, that's what has made me even more conscious about, the stuff that I need to do because we can literally be gone tomorrow. Yeah. And I think so often, like, I don't want to go to heaven or wherever I'm going. Hopefully it's heaven. I don't want to go with my music unplayed. And I heard that one time and I'm like, oh my gosh. God. Yeah. So many people, go to their grave they say like the richest place in the whole dang earth are cemeteries. Because there's so much potential, there's so much gold that literally died with these people because they were always so afraid and the insecurities and the doubts always got in the way and they never were willing to kind of just take action and kind of figure it out. I don't know if you've ever heard of a book. It's called, now I'm going to forget, the top 5 I think it's either 5 or 6 regrets of the dying. I heard it on a podcast. Someone like mentioned it and I'm like, that sounds interesting. So I literally like just downloaded it right away via the audiobook. And it's this person who was like a home care nurse or home care person. And she used to take care of people like during their last days of their life. And she kind of just fell into that. It wasn't like something she was looking for, but through the whole book, she's sharing all of the regrets that these people were sharing with her. And like a lot of them were, I didn't spend enough time. I spent so much time making a living that I never spent time with the people that truly mattered. Or I had these goals and these dreams, but I was always so afraid to pursue them that I decided to kind of hold back. And now I wish I would have taken action because now I'll never know what would have happened. So when I read that book, I was in tears like every other page, but it's so powerful to, there's so much wisdom in someone that's a little older in age because like you said earlier in the podcast, the more experience you have, the more life you live, just the more you realize like, damn, like none of that matters. If she doesn't think I'm okay, who cares? If she thinks I'm crazy, who cares? If she think I can or can't do it, like it doesn't matter, because I'm not here to please them. I'm here to do what I'm supposed to do on this earth. And so many people are so disconnected with their purpose because we don't take the time to get connected with it.
Yeah, I was listening to Haley Burkhead's podcast the other day, and she was saying that one of the sentences she uses is, "Oh, well." And I thought, that's so easy and so good. Oh, well. It's like, she doesn't like me. Oh, well, that's actually a perfect, because sometimes I do find that I sometimes need, the odd sentence to just get me out of my own way.
Yes,
going
that's
back
a
to
good
what
one
right here. So, oh, well. So can you share with me, maybe one or two of the biggest challenges that you've had on your journey so far, in your business journey, and maybe how you overcame them? Because I think that sometimes, the media or like marketing, really good marketing, makes it seem like the entrepreneurial journey is just easy. And I know you've talked a bit about how it's hard work and you're not getting paid for all the things that you're doing. And but are there any challenges that kind of stick out as being something that, you went through and then you were able to overcome in the end?
Honestly, for me, it's been imposter syndrome, which I didn't really know that was a term until not that long ago. But it's the whole thought of, crap, like they're going to soon find out that I have no clue what the heck I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like they're like inches away from figuring it out. And I think always having that fear of like, not owning the power that's within me. And it's not that, like you said, it's not that I'm better, that I'm worse or whatnot. It's literally owning the fact that, these are my strengths and I need to play on them. I need to do what I know I'm good at. And I was talking to someone the other day and we were talking about relationships and how, there's relationships that are so hard. Like, it's almost like you're going against the stream, you're going upstream when it comes to like this person that you're trying to like get along with or be in a relationship with. And then there's people that it's just like so easy. And I was telling her, I said, I think in life, everything that you're meant to do is easy. I'm not saying, or simple. Let's talk about simple, because easy, they say, implies little or no effort. But it's simple. Like it works in a really simple way. There's not a lot of like rocket science. It flows, right?
Yeah.
And like when I met my husband, like it just flowed. There was no like, we have our issues, absolutely. But it just kind of flowed. And then with this new journey, that I'm on, is literally just flowing. And I think that's why like it seems to be going so quickly, because I have finally figured out what I'm supposed to do.
Yes.
And because I have figured out what I'm supposed to do, the strengths that I was gifted with, they say like, once you have a dream or a goal, you've been given all the tools, the people, the strengths, everything that you need to make that happen is within your reach somehow, some way.
Yeah. Or you wouldn't have thought of it. That's,
yes.
Because you wouldn't have conjured up these ideas if you weren't capable of executing them.
Yes. And I think finally accepting that that's a truth. So for me, it was just the fact that like how much longer can I kind of keep this up, before they figure it out. And the more I do what I do, the more I'm like, I know what I'm doing, and then I get the confirmations from people. I think that's why it's so important to like keep the little messages that people send you, keep any testimonials, anything of people sending you, like telling you like, dang, that was really good, or man, you made a difference, or man, what you said was so impactful, whatever those little, affirmations are that other people, gift you with, keep them, post them up if you need to, keep like little screenshots of them on your phone. And then when you're feeling like blah, and you're like, I can't, or I won't, read up on those, because again, if you did it one time, you could do it again. So if you inspired one person, if you made an impact in one person's life, if you made a difference in one person's life, you can do it again, especially if you feel like that's what you're supposed to be doing. That was one. And then I think for me, it was just somehow just getting out of my own way, like being willing to take action. I think the minute I discovered that being perfectly imperfect, and that's why that's the name of my podcast, was the way we all were, and that no one out there that I thought was perfect was really perfect, that they were all imperfectly perfect. For me, it was like this realization of, I can just be me. Like, I'm not supposed to be her or him or that person. I'm literally just supposed to be me and no one else.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm having such a challenging time, because I'm trying to be other people that I'm not, when I literally have everything within me to be me.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, I think that self-discovery was like really powerful when I finally figured it out.
Yeah, because people don't need another carbon cutout of some other random person. They need you and your voice and all your wisdom. And, you know, it's so clear that you're so well read, but even though you're so well read, you still have your own perspective on things. You're still, you know, taking all the information that you're learning and you're putting it through your own filter, and you're creating, this new method or your own way or your own perspective, which is going to resonate with other people. I mean, that's the thing. It's like the abundance mindset, right? There's enough to go around. Not everybody is going to be connected to every single person. So if we were all carbon cutouts of each other, man, we would be screwed, right?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm like, oh, can I deal with another me? I don't think so. I give so much credit to my kids and my husband. I'm like, oh, you all are so good. Like, every time we have an anniversary, I tell my husband, like, oh, you're awesome. Like, you've dealt with me for X amount of years. Like, we've been married now for 16 years. And I'm like, you're good. Because, I mean, I'm strong-minded and I'm strong-willed. But you're right. We don't need another same person. We're meant to be us. And I think discovering that is one of the biggest gifts that anyone can give to themselves. And then understanding that what's supposed to happen. I was just thinking about this today because I have a challenge going on, and all these people signed up. And then, half of those people actually, it's all a numbers game. So when I look at the numbers of really who's actually participating, I'm like, man, like that's like nothing, compared to the big number of everyone that signed up. And I remind myself consistently, because I think we're such control freaks and we want to be in control of what's going on and make sure that, it's happening the way we think it should happen. And I just remind myself, release it. Do what I know I need to do, like do everything that's in my power to make it the best experience, deliver the best content at the most value. But after that, like hands off. And I remind myself consistently, it's going to happen the way it's supposed to happen, with who it's supposed to happen, at the time that it's supposed to happen. As long as I'm doing everything that I can and my power to make it the best. After that, I can't control the results. I can only control what I do and how I respond to it.
And not everybody is ready, and not everybody has done the work. I mean, I'm like you. I've been working on this stuff for nearly 20 years. It's not easy. But you have to want to do the work. And so sometimes people sign up for things because they're well-intentioned, but they're not willing or able, or whatever hurdles they have. And you can lead by example, but you can't actually do the work for them. And I think that's so, and that comes back to what we've been talking about this whole time, which is that you choose to invest in yourself. You choose to live the life of your dreams. You choose to get up early or stay up late. These are decisions that we have as people. We have free will.
Absolutely. You're so right. And I think discovering that you can make a different choice, and that it's okay. Like, give yourself grace to, I've been doing it this way for so long. And if they say, insanity is defined by doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So I always say, if you change what's inside, you change automatically, you change what's on the outside. And I think the minute people are like really receive that and accept it as truth is the minute that they can start working on themselves and stop trying to change everything around them. Like, oh, I have a bad relationship. All right, let me change the partner. Oh, I have a bad job. Oh, let me change the job. And they're literally jumping from job to job, from relationship to relationship. It's like, dude, it's you, not to like be mean, but not that you're a bad person. It's just, there has to be some growth and some inner work that has to happen, because maybe there's like a belief system that you've always had, or a negative, there's something going on inside that continues, that where you keep on making the same choices, even if it's a different person, but it's like the same kind of person or the same kind of job or the same, whatever it is. It's like, change you, like start from within. And then the minute you change your mindset, it's like your whole world totally does a 360. And I think if people just understand that, and I'm like, and it's not even that hard. It's just, it sounds hard. It's like, just listen to a few podcasts, you know, kind of start doing, like you said, these simple things of like, I just write down my 10 goals. I mean, it's super simple stuff, but again, it's so easy to do that. It's also so easy not to do that. People think like you're a person that you were talking to, they think it's so not important. Like it's not going to make a difference. And it's like, well, it won't make a difference after a day, after 2 days, after 2 weeks, but man, like do it for like 6 months. Your life will be absolutely different. Like my life has absolutely transformed in the last 6 months. Like there is no way I could have seen what's happened thus far 6 months ago. If you would have told me this and this is going to happen, this is what you're going to think, and this is what you're going to say, this is what you're going to be doing, I would have laughed. I would have been like, you're crazy, because I wasn't able to see it yet. Because again, I can see the bigger vision. Like I can zoom out and see what I want for my life, but the zooming in, I can only zoom in to where I'm at right now, because I can't zoom into this part over here that I can't see yet. I think that's where taking that imperfect action has been key for me. That if I can just do that next little step, and then that step shines light on the following step, and then that step, you know, it kind of keeps this whole like one step after another. You can't see the top of the staircase, but you can see the next step. So just take that next step.
Yeah, exactly. So in your We Lead Society, are you finding that a lot of the women, you know, a lot of the challenges that they're having are similar? And is there sort of a theme there?
Yes. When it comes to mindset, it's like a few things. One of them is perfection paralysis, where they don't put out, or they don't go after a goal or a dream, or they don't put out a project until everything is perfect. So surprise, it never is. So you never put out a project, you never go after the goal, because it's never going to be the perfect time. You're never going to have enough money. You're never, you know, when people laugh when I say, like, they're like, oh, you know, I can't have a kid yet because of this, or I can't do this because of that. I said, dude, just like do it. Literally the minute you decide to do it, like everything, it's like the universe does this like crazy wild thing that everything falls in. It's like all the puzzle pieces fall into place. So the only reason they're not falling into place is because you're not taking that first initial step that the universe is waiting for you to take before it actually starts like dropping everything in front of you, like almost on your lap. And so that's one of them. The perfection paralysis, like being paralyzed by the idea of perfection, is huge. Like, the more people I talk to, and I'm like, what? And also allowing themselves, like that fear of seeing what they truly want. So part of the challenge that I do is I help them, or I have them connect with that future vision of them within 5 to 10 years. And I keep on hearing people say, like, I was so scared to go there. Like I was so scared to allow myself to see it and think it and envision it. And if you don't see it in your mind first, it won't happen out in the world. It won't be tangible until you see it in your mind first.
100%.
So that as well. And then of course the imposter syndrome, people thinking that they're not good enough, that they can't, that they don't have all the, qualification, that they don't have all the accreditation, that they don't have the education, etc. I mean, I didn't go to school to be a coach. I've had life experience. I went to school for like something in the medical field, which is crazy because I haven't done that since I was 22. So that's what I went to school for. And I did that for like less than a year, I think. It was crazy.
Wasn't your calling?
It wasn't. Absolutely not. And I think people are so afraid to pursue what their calling truly is, because it's usually something that's kind of scary, because it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be different. And I think that part of our brain that tries to protect us when there's a change happening, whether it's a positive or negative change, I mean, it's like immediate. So the minute people feel fear, they think it's a bad thing. And it's like, no, your brain can identify between the good and the bad change. So regardless of what kind of a change is happening, it's going to freak out. And it's going to try to keep you in your comfort zone. You have to fight through it, and you have to learn how to follow, going back to the intuition and that gut feeling, you have to learn how to follow that, because it will absolutely guide you, and it will tell you or help you feel whether it's going to be something good or something that's not so good for you. And then you kind of guide yourself that way.
Yeah. With the perfection paralysis, is that your advice as well? Is just do it anyway, do it scared?
I ask people to, I use the whole thing of what I do within my challenge, where I bring them to like their bigger vision. And then I help them break it down to like the 10 things that they should be working on. And then like their 10 goals or dreams, and then breaking it down all the way to that one thing they can do right now. Like, what do you feel you're qualified enough, or it's, you know, you're almost to perfect, maybe not yet, but like almost perfect enough to like just take action on that first initial step.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, not everyone is willing. You know, some people are going to be paralyzed by perfection, no matter what tools you offer them, no matter what. They have to make a decision of saying, all right, I am ready to suck. Because, and that's one thing, you know, they're like, I'm just so afraid of like not being good or not, you know, succeeding at the first time. And I said, you're not. Like, let's just get over that. You're going to suck. It's going to suck. You're going to be terrible the first time you do this or the first time you do that. Why? Because you weren't born knowing how to do it. So you have to learn. And the only way to learn is to actually do it. I think people, it's like, dude, you weren't, I mean, the only thing you knew how to do when you were born is like poop and, you know, suck on your mom's breast or whatever. I mean, there's like, there's only certain things that you knew how to do, like when you were born. Everything else, it's a learned skill. And I think when we're little, when we're like, you know, kids, we have this childlike innocence of like, oh, I fell. Okay, get back up. Oh, you know, that didn't work. All right, let me try it this way. Like, it's just, it's so beautiful to watch a child try something new because they just don't give up.
Yeah.
You know, even I remember seeing my kids go underneath, we have like a table that's kind of high, not like your regular like kitchen table, and it's kind of high. And I remember my kids, when they got to the age where they were tall enough, where they would have to duck, like if they were playing around the table. And I remember one time they were like, bam, bam, you know, a couple of times. And I'm like, I mean, hello, but they didn't care. They kept on trying. Eventually it hurt bad enough where they were like, oh, I have to duck, you know, but they didn't give up. You know, like my kid, he was just like, he kept going. And eventually he figured out, oh, that's not the way. Let me try it this way. Oh, now it doesn't hurt. Okay, now it's better. So I think as adults, you know, that pain, and it's not even physical pain most of the time. It's like, I don't even know what kind of pain it is, like the pain of the fear, or the pain of, you know, it hurting your ego because you kind of sucked at this and you're so accustomed to being so amazing at whatever you do at work or whatever it is you do at home, that people are so afraid of just not putting out their best right away. And it's like, well, you never put out your best if you don't put out your worst first, or whatever that you can put out at the beginning. I mean, I listened to myself, like my first podcast. It was terrible. Like my voice was shaky. I mean, I could hear it. I'm like, I hope no one else can hear it, but I'm sure they can. And I mean, that was kind of crappy. You know, the first interview I did like this, I was so nervous and I was like stuttering and, you know, the whole 9 yards. Yeah. But you get over that hurdle. And then eventually, you know, people hear certain things I say now and they're like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, oh, you should have heard me before.
Yeah, me too. I did my first Facebook Live in the wrong channel and I basically didn't breathe for an entire hour. I just talked as fast as I possibly could about it's the same thing, you know, or I was like, actually need to write like breathe marks in like my notes, you know? So it's like, okay, Lauren, let's just chill. But, you know, like you said, we just did it because we knew where we were going. And how else do you know if you don't take the first step?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's funny. It's funny. Like now
it's funny now. I mean, it wasn't funny then, let's be honest. It's totally funny now. Like after you go over the growth hurdle, that's why I think it's so important when you are afraid to get connected with people that have done it already. I love that people that are further ahead than you are so willing to like share and encourage and empower. That's why I'm always like in different Facebook groups and I'm, you know, connecting via podcast to all these people that are so like amazing, all these females. I, you know, obviously I go with the women because that's what I can identify myself with. Yeah. And I know they go through all the ups and downs and all the hormonal issues and all the crazy feelings, you know, just like I do. So I love listening how they overcame something, or, you know, if I talk to someone or if I message someone, I love that they're like, oh, I did this, or yeah, do that. Or, you know, if I have a coach and I'm kind of working with them and they're trying to guide me and kind of just sharing what works according to their experience. I think it's so important. I think people are trying to do it on their own and we don't have to. Yes. Like we're in this together and no one said that you had to do life and figure it all out on your own. Yeah. You know, you're able to reach out. And I think having that courage to reach out And it goes back. I mean, I suffered from that for a while where I was like, she's not going to want to talk to me. Like, she's so busy. She's this. And the minute I started reaching out to people, like, they're so wonderful. Like, people are so gracious with their time, with their knowledge. And it's just, we just have to ask, because if we don't ask, the answer will always say no.
Exactly. Someone might have done that for them in their past as well. And they know how important it is to reach out or to be accessible to other people coming ahead. What you just said is so golden. And I hope our listener at home really heard you, because, people have gone before you. And so why would you waste your time spending years figuring shit out if it's already laid out? Someone has already done the path, walk the path, get the results, for whatever it is,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Just being willing to be a good student. I think so many people are trying to reinvent the wheel, and you don't have to. You can follow you can be inspired by someone's work, and you can almost do it something identical to them, but with your own twist. And I think understanding, one of the things that I understood recently that I think was so empowering to me was that nothing of what anyone says is original. They have learned it from someone else, and then that person learned it from someone else, because I was always afraid of like, I have to come up with my own stuff and I have to teach my own stuff. And someone once told me, like, Leslie, are you kidding me? Like, no one is teaching like their original content. I mean, there might be like a twist that they added, they tried and it worked, and now they're teaching it.
Yeah.
But most people have learned what they know from someone else or from a variety of people, and they have kind of condensed it into what they do now.
Yeah.
And now they're teaching other people how to do that. And the same thing, those people that they're teaching, they're probably learning from more than one person, and they're, kind of creating this toolkit of mindset tools and of life tools and everything else that now they're going to take and use, and whether they're going to choose to teach other people or just use it for themselves is, up to them. But I think discovering that nothing is original and that it's okay to teach what I'm learning from all these different people that I'm investing time learning from, like, it's okay. Yeah. And for me, that was like golden. I don't know why I didn't think about it myself, but someone cleared it up for me, and it was like this little switch went off.
Yeah. And credit them. I mean, that's the other thing. We're just coming up to the hour now, so about to wrap things up. This has been such a fabulous conversation. I do want to end with asking you about, whether or not you have some book recommendations, especially when people are well-read. I'd love to hear what some of their favorites are. But before I do that, is there anything that you wanted to talk about that I didn't ask you that you wanted to mention now?
No. I think we covered quite a bit today.
We covered a lot, I think. I'll definitely put all your links to, your podcast, to the We Lead Society, to your Linktree and your socials and stuff like that as well in the show notes for our listeners at home who would be dying to hear more from you, I'm sure. So just before we wrap up, are there any books, Leslie, that you recommend that really shifted the way that you look at life business-wise or, through personal development, mindset and things like that you might want to mention?
You know what? I have one that I always mess up the title. So let me make sure I bring it up, because it is such a wonderful book that I recommend to literally everybody. And I always forget the name, but I have it right here. There's a couple. So one of the ones that I probably listened to like 5 times, because I have it, in my Audible account, is Pound the Stone. It's not necessarily a business book. It's a life skills book. And it's such a simple read. Like, it is the easiest read ever. And it is told in a form of a story. I think that's why I love it so much, because it's not like points and, bullet, anything like that. It's more of like, they're sharing the story of this kid and, basketball and everything he's learning, but they're talking about what we were talking about earlier, the basics, and how he's trying to do like these big, fabulous things. And, he's like, I already know that, and they're bringing him back down to that. And then what a difference it made in his life in general. So there's a lot of really amazing life golden nuggets that I found in that book that I loved. So that's one. It's called Pound the Stone. And then the other one is a 5 a.m. Club. It's actually also told in a form of a story, which I didn't know until I actually started reading it. I thought it was more of like a business book.
Yeah,
it is, but it is a fabulous, I love that book. It's such a well-written book. That one I loved. Also, I read it not that long ago from Carrie Green, who's the founder of Female Entrepreneur Association. She Means Business.
So good.
That was a really amazing book that I absolutely loved. If anyone is in business, she breaks it down really nicely in regards to the work and the process, you know, of launching and creating a successful business. There's a lot more. I mean, I literally have a ton of books that I love, but those are like some of the ones that came up. Yeah, there's like a lot more. I mean, it's like, can I send you my Audible list? And then, you know, you can pick. Because there is, you know what, I'm amazed. I love reading books because someone once told me, like, do you understand what that author did? You know, they literally took years of experience, of the time and money and energy they invested into becoming the person they are today. And they literally broke it all the way down to X amount of pages where they could include every single thing that they wanted you to know. Like, they gave you like the best of the best of the best.
Yeah.
And they literally put it in between the front and the back cover. And it's $14 or however many, you know, $20 or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, think about it. You know, I am so willing to pay to learn from someone who has gone before me because, like you mentioned earlier, I do not want to spend the next 10 years trying to figure out how to create what I'm trying to create or how to pursue this goal. Like, if someone already did it and I feel like in my gut, like they're the right person for me to learn from, like I better figure it out, you know, and buy their book and listen to their podcast and buy their course or do whatever I need to do to get into, like, to get them into my head, because they're going to save me so much time and they're going to save me so much money and they're going to make me so much money, you know, because if I learn what to do now instead of 10 years from now, I can make all that money between now and 10 years that I would have not made because it would have been taking me that time to figure it out. I think so many people don't do that. You know, they're willing to go and buy like this $1,000 purse or these like $500, you know, really like crazy shoes or whatever, the, you know, the red bottoms and all this stuff. I'm so like not a brand person. I just buy whatever I like, wherever I like it.
Me too.
So it's funny because like I see people invest so much money on these tangible things that literally are going to go out of season within the next few months, or they're going to use once or twice. And I'm like, man, if you can invest those $500 in a course that can change your life, or if you can invest $1,000 in X, Y, and Z, like, it's just amazing. Like, I think the minute we understand that, it's such a gift for us.
I love that. That's a fabulous way to end. Thank you so much. What an amazing podcast. Thank you for all your wisdom. Thank you for being in the world and serving and helping to shift and change the world, you know, for the better, because we do need thinkers like you. And so I'm so happy to know you. And thank you so much for being on the show today. I know that I learned a lot, and I know our listener at home got a hell of a lot of value too.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I love, you know, I could talk about this kind of stuff all day long. So I appreciate that you have created this platform to offer, you know, those of us that have something that we want to share that we think is of value, that we're able to do so via your platform. So it was my pleasure.
Anytime, girl. Thank you. Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please do leave us a review where you listen to your podcast and share it with your friends. New episodes every Monday.